Hello.
Sorry.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Hi, beautiful ladies. How are you?
Doing all right. You are gorgeous. Just okay.
Hey, so do you guys know each other, Kang Hee and Pam?
No.
Okay, so let me introduce you. Kang Hee Hong is up at ROE 33. Where are you at? Where's that actually located?
We are in two different cities, Monmouth and Galesburg.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
And Pam is actually just up the road from me. So Pam Williams has been teaching for SWIC, Southwestern.
Actually, Lewis and Clark.
Lewis and Clark, thank you. See, it's good that we ran through this, so I get that right. Lewis and Clark, and up in Godfrey, but.
Is it community college?
Yes, it is. And I also teach just outside of St. Louis as well for a school district-based adult ed program.
Okay. You're busy.
So she's
A little bit.
2 states. Yeah. Okay, so Kang-hee, do you still want me to run your slides for you when it's your?
Right.
Sure. I would like that so that
Okay.
we don't waste our time
Sure.
trying to figure out how to do the sound. Mac works kind of really weird. It will just wipe out my sound after I share the sound. So
I'm going to just make sure that I've got this up. Okay. All right. Okay. So let me bring that back up again. Okay. And Pam, are you going to run
Yes.
your own slides?
I would like to, if I could.
Okay, sure. No. Why don't you bring yours up and make sure that you're good with bringing them up when it's your turn.
Okay.
Yeah, just run a test. Hi, everybody.
Hey, Amy.
hello.
How are we doing? Oh,
And I don't know that do either of you know Amy Julian, our host today? She is the director at the Illinois Center for Specialized Professional Support located at ISU. And Amy is on the CTE professional development side of the house from ICCB. So.
Okay.
very nice to meet you, and thank you for joining us today.
Nice to
Oh,
meet
thank
you.
you.
Yeah, so Amy, you're going to love both of these two women and what they have to share. Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen what they have to share and I know them. So I know it's good. And this is the fun stuff because this is like, how do we connect, and that's really cool stuff. Okay, there you go.
Fantastic.
Okay. So am I good as far as my slides?
Are you in presenting mode?
I actually usually present from PowerPoint. From PDFs, just so stuff doesn't like move around, but I could run it through Google Slides as well.
No, you do whatever you feel comfortable with.
I think the big thing is when you open it up there, Pamela, go ahead and just go for clean screen, and that'll help take off the top and bottom of it.
Okay. And by clean screen, you mean the full, this one?
Well, yeah, that works.
Okay.
Except that looks beautiful. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I'm curious, clean screen, is that like a setting?
It is when you get the option to show your screen, there should be a little icon down there that says clean screen.
Ah.
Whenever you clicked the green share screen and then you had some choices that came up?
Yes. So I'll stop it now just for a second and then try it again.
See what, yeah.
Okay. So with the clean one, would that be advanced? Or
Let me look and see.
And while you're doing that, Kirsten, I see you on. Nice to have you with us. But I do think you might want to, I mean, you can start us off, but you'll want to go over and support Brittany, because she's doing the super strategies on homeless by herself at 2:30. I think I sent you both of those, didn't I?
Yes, that sounds good.
But
Would that be
Sarah,
portion of,
pardon me?
I'm so sorry, you finish.
No, you're fine. I was just going to say that Sarah and I can handle this. We can either make it be amazing or we can mess it up all by ourselves.
If I use the portion of the screen, is that the one you're talking about, or? Because I've got on basic, I have screen, whiteboard, iPhone.
Well,
Looks like the tab
I think you just use basic. I think the issue is I got confused because I've been on GoToWebinar all morning. And on
Is this okay?
GoToWebinar, yeah, that looks perfect. That looks absolutely
Okay.
perfect. But on GoToWebinar, it gives you a clean screen option, which whatever you've done works great there.
Okay, then that's what I will do.
And I'll go ahead and kick us off. Are we waiting on one more, Sarah?
Yes, Ginger, but I will say, Ginger's supposed to join us. Let me send her a quick message. She is under the weather. So just in case she doesn't come, I feel like we're okay that we'll have enough. But let me go send her a quick email.
And then while you're doing that, can one of you tell me, can you see the presentation or can you see the slide 1 through 15, that kind of thing? Do I need to swap my view?
Yeah, you're not in full screen, Amy.
Now am I on full screen?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I just have to swap view. Okay. Just wanted to be sure I did that. And so, Kang Hee and Pamela, what we'll do is I'll start off and just walk through some fun EBPs, so some evidence-based practices. And I'm of course citing, but I've stolen some stuff from like Harvard Business Law and different things around the different areas of mentorship, office hours, and I'm just connecting. And then I will take no more than 15 minutes and Sarah will be presenting with me. And then from there, we'll roll over into, I'll hand it over to Sarah. And Sarah, do we have an order or is it whoever shares their screen first wins?
No, not today. Not today. Yes, that has happened sometimes, but we're not going to do that today. So you guys, if Ginger shows up, I'm going to let her go first just because she's been sick. So I hope that's okay with you. And that way, if she needs to go, she can. And then Kang Hee, I'm going to bring you up next. And then Pam, are you okay with bringing up you'll be the anchor runner in this relay?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
And we have, I don't know if you listened in on the other ones, we've ran these fairly relaxed, just allowing people to have conversations and just kind of going through. It has been very engaging for the audience, and I know you guys will do a great job, so I'm very excited to have you with us. You should also be able to see, which I'm going to stop share for a second so I can see it. Oh, there's Ginger.
Hi, Ginger. You're muted.
There we go. Hi.
How you feeling?
I'm okay. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for being such a trooper, being here. So after Amy shares her slides, which will be about 10 minutes or so, I didn't hear what Amy said. What's going to be however long Amy takes. Then Ginger, we're going to let you go first. So if you need to go, you can. Okay.
That sounds good.
Ginger, do you want me to bring your slides up for you, or are you going to share your own slides?
I can share my own. That's not a big deal as long as I have the ability to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to make sure that why don't you take the screen and do that just to practice one time?
Yep. Let me. Oh, I have so many tabs opened. Let's go.
I think we can all relate.
Yeah.
Are you in education if you don't have more than 5 or 6 open?
I know, right? Yeah,
I think it's a qualification there, Pamela. I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll pull up my other screen, but yes, it looks like. So I'm going to stop my share and go switch my tab so that it'll be ready. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Do you all normally keep your cameras on throughout the whole time? Or,
What I like to do is when I'm talking and and introducing you, I'll turn it on, but then I'll turn it off. Like whenever it's each of your individual time, I will turn my camera off.
okay. All right.
That way, if I do this, nobody knows. Nobody knows I did that.
Okay. All right.
And I am guilty of today. It is very, very windy at my home. And so my last meeting, I kept freezing. So I'm gonna not freeze and just show you the picture of where I have on makeup and my hair is done right and it's not freezing.
And I think that's one of the good points that we can bring up is when we're engaging our students, we do the best we can. And some days things may or may not work out. And that's why we want to make sure that we have those relationships with students and they, we see them for all of the goodness that they are. And they can also hopefully look for the goodness in us that sometimes things don't work. So it is getting awfully windy here too. I tell
We're
you.
supposed to have a storm coming in. So yeah,
Yeah.
it is just the trees are out there dancing and it's all crazy. If there was any leaves left on them, I think they're going to be shaken off by the end of today.
Yeah, the sky looks a little ominous here in St. Louis. I ran out to run a few errands and I was like, this doesn't look good. So I was looking up.
And what part of St. Louis do you live in?
My family and I live in Florissant,
Florissant.
and then I teach in St. John, which is just outside. It's the Rittner
Yeah.
School District.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I've lived here a long time. I know most neighborhoods in St. Louis, so I was just curious.
Do you live in Illinois?
I live in Edwardsville. Uh-huh.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
I moved here 29 years ago, and we thought we'd stay here until we figured out where we really wanted to live. And we're still here. So I guess this is where we really want to live.
Midwest grows on you. We were supposed to be in Champaign-Urbana for 2 years because we, of course, wouldn't have our family in Champaign-Urbana. And now 16 years later, we're still in the Midwest.
Yeah.
We moved to the St. Louis region, but we thought we were headed back south. My husband's from Tennessee, and then my mother's in Atlanta. So I'd like to be closer to family.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I thought I was studying in America for only 2 years and I'm staying. That was a big move.
How long ago
sure.
was that, Kang-hee?
I came to America when I was 24 as an ESL, adult ESL. So I was just like our students. Yes.
That's great. And where are you from originally?
South Korea.
Okay. So do you go back to visit? Or are you
Yes.
your family? Yeah.
Once a year, but because of the COVID, this is killing me.
Yeah.
Not good. But I Zoom with my family.
There you go.
Yeah. We've done birthday parties. We even had a cake decorating contest over the summer. Everybody started with, a box cake, so Duncan Hines or Betty Crocker, whatever, and then you had to jazz it up. And I thought it was a lot of fun. Yeah.
That
Very
is
cool.
inventive.
Yeah.
We've just played bingo on Zoom. We need to be more inventive.
Ooh, haven't thought about bingo. That would
Yes.
be a good one.
I have a niece who is 9 and she has the little rolly thing. So she calls out the numbers.
Oh, the
And
crank.
Yep, the crank thing. And we sent everybody the same cards, so people have the card and we play bingo.
That's really
Good
fun.
one.
When we thought it was just going to be a couple weeks, we would win prizes. Now we don't win prizes anymore.
Several months in, the prices were gone.
Yeah, back in March, we were mailing out prizes thinking, oh yeah, we're going to see you in a couple of years. No, now it's like you play for bragging rights and that's about it. It does look like it's the top of the hour. So I'm going to start by sharing my screen. Make sure I'm sharing the right one here. Are you all seeing the presentation?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, let me start the webinar and we'll give people a minute to come in.
Also, if everybody wants to mute themselves when they're not talking, that's kind of just good practice so that, you know, who knows?
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Today, we are starting our three-part series on retention and engagement, and I am joined here this afternoon by my friend and colleague, Sarah Goldammer from the Southern Illinois Professional Development Center, and my name is Amy Julian. I am the Director for the Illinois Center for Specialized Professional Support. As we begin this afternoon, all of you are muted. We are using the chat and hand raising and all those fun ways to express or expressions through Zoom to comment. If you do have any questions, please post those in the chat. This series will run similar to the series on recruitment. We're going to start with a few minutes of evidence-based. Well, let me just get to my next slide there so I can show you that. So we're going to start with a few minutes on evidence-based practicing. We're going to hear from our peers today. And so again, we're going to talk about what the evidence says we're going to do, and then we're going to hear from our peers on what this looks like in the field. And then as we move through the next hour together, I hope you nod your head, I hope you smile, and I hope you scratch down a note or two. These sessions are recorded, and so we will be able to share that out, and then we'll also be sharing the slides and slide decks from this session today. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. So today we're going to talk about making time and taking time to care and what that looks like and what that means. And honestly, when you're talking to adult educators, this is where I'm going to be preaching to the choir, but I am going to still give you some of the advice on what the research says. The next thing we're going to talk about today is mentor and mentees and how to establish those and what those can look like and what are just that relationship looks like between mentor and mentees. And then we're going to talk about office hours and the benefit of office hours and what are the top 10 things that you should know or you should share with your faculty regarding office hours. So with that, let's dive right in. And our first area here is evidence-based practices taking the time to care. And when you're taking time and making time to care, there's just some helpful tips. One of which is as you're engaging with your students, you want to set the tone. You are the instructor, you're the lead, you're really setting the tone. So if you come in and you're kind of ho-hummy or you're having a blue day, you're going to set that tone. So be sure that you're setting the tone as you're engaging with students. The next bullet there is kind of silly, but very important, is to take attendance every day and even when you're online. There is a ton of research from the League of Innovation that shows that students will retain, students will engage if they feel that they matter, if they feel that someone cares that they're there. And one of the easiest things that we can do as a program is to take attendance, because that shows that we call out their name and we're asking them to be there, we're asking them to participate. The third bullet is kind of a given, and it goes very well with the fourth. It is to listen. So when your students are asking you something, listen, not only for what they're asking for, but also for any additional cues on things that they might be having issues with, barriers that they might be having that are impeding their success, and how can we help them address those barriers and overcome those barriers. And then show interest in your students. There are ways to connect with students, and we'll talk about that in office hours. One of the things that I know, and I know in our professional social group, a lot of us have pets. And so we do often talk about our dogs and our pets or our children and our families and things of that nature. And you can keep that, again, with your students. Maybe you don't want to talk about your family, but at the same time, talking about your pet is that nice, safe area. And then invest your time in their success, which I know you all do very well. But the evidence talks about the way in which you need to be present in your class and be working within your class and have them see you as an investment in their future and their success. Those of you who attended the Forum for Excellence with us, we heard from Dr. Victor Rios, and he talked about how his teacher tricked him into believing in himself, that she believed in him so confidently and with so much passion that she tricked him into believing in himself, and what success has come from that. And I think that really says a lot about the work that we do as educators across the state. Some other fun tips: believe in your students, and that goes to the Victor Rios comment. If you have not seen that talk, I really encourage you to go out on our website and check that out. It's a phenomenal discussion around just success of students and attributes to teacher education. And then just a little tip there: call them by their name and learn how to pronounce their names. As we look at the way in which we engage with students, one of the things we want to be sure we're doing is calling them by the name that they want to be called, and not necessarily a name that might be on your paper. I've had many students who are Eugene on my paper, for example, and they don't go by that, they go by John. Or my own father, whose first name is Paul, does not go by Paul, he goes by his middle name. And so just, things like that, call them by their name. And also, if their names are difficult to pronounce, take the time and be sure we're pronouncing their names, because that's just a show of respect to our students as ourselves. Show empathy, but also hold students accountable. Life does happen, and in the era of COVID, I think we're saying that more so than ever, but we want to show empathy for our students. We want to be interested in their lives, and we want to acknowledge those things, but at the same time, we want to hold them accountable and set the bar for them at a level that we know they will attain. The big things when we talk about engagement, and Bevan is not with us today, but if she was, she would say that you have to engage to retain, and you have to retain to engage, because you can't retain without engagement. And so I challenge you, the tips for engagement that really came out of across all the stuff that we looked at was to see them as individuals, to hear them as people, and to support them as our students. And so before I move on, Sarah, is there anything you want to add to that section of?
Yeah, so Amy, I just want to mention, as we've moved through the shutdown period and into the full-blown pandemic and all the different journeys that we've had over the last 7 months, it's been interesting how much teachers and students really want to engage. You see them really just craving to be together. When we started doing some webinars for teachers early on, you guys are putting some things in the chat. What we saw is that people they just wanted to talk to each other. They just wanted to see each other. And that's what I've heard from a lot of teachers. So that's really, really important. And to that point, I want to mention, because Amy hasn't mentioned it yet, and I know this about her. Some of you have been on enough webinars with Amy that you know that she gets her internet connectivity off of a grain silo. And so it's really windy today, and she's struggling with connectivity. And so I just want to bring the point that if we want to see, make sure that you have your camera on as much as possible. And if your students are willing, if they're comfortable and they have the connectivity, it's great to be able to see them as well. And to the point, Amy is beautifully illustrating that sometimes our technology doesn't work the way that we want it to. And sometimes everything we have planned doesn't go the way that we want it to. So then we make do with the best that we have. But it's really great to be able to have cameras on as much as possible.
Absolutely. And I think that's a really good point. I also want to share some of the work that I do is with the Early School Leaver program, and many of you out there might be familiar with that program, but we did a qualitative study of Early School Leaver about 3 or 4 years ago. And one of the things that was resounding across the board, we went across the state, we interviewed students all through that program, and we asked them questions about, what interested them in the program, and then also how did they find success. And what we heard over and over and over again was that it was the instructor. The instructor believed in me. The instructor knew I could do this. I had a coach, I had a mentor, I had a friend in that instructor. And so I really want you to think about the important role that you play for your students and in building their success and their confidence in themselves. As we move through this, because again, my time is very short, I'm supposed to be quickly going through these, is our mentor-mentee. One of the things with the mentor-mentee relationship is we want you to set the ground rules, be respectful of time, and always show appreciation for those individuals who signed up to be mentors, and again, those who are engaging with the mentee program. Define the roles, define your expectations. There's tons of resources, and we will share some of these out with the evaluation tomorrow, but there are tons of resources around what you can do to define the rules and what are some agreements. And maybe you have the mentee sign the mentee agreement and the mentor sign the mentor agreement, and they commit to contacting each other at a certain level of time. We'll talk a little bit about roles and responsibilities here in a second. But this last one I want to point out real quick is the pairing is important, and sometimes gender does matter. And depending on what you're looking at your mentor-mentee relationship with, you sometimes want to pair them with the person that is best fitted to be their mentor. But at the same time, if they are going into an occupation where, for example, what us bureaucrats call a non-traditional occupation. So if they are a young woman going into the trades, or if they are a male going into a nursing program, it is beneficial to pair them with somebody who is similar in gender for that gender, non-traditional gender area, because they do find better success with a mentor relationship in that place. A good mentor is a good mentor, and don't get me wrong on that. But if you're looking for, there's just some research out there that does show that if you're pairing, you might want to consider pairing if there are people who have had shared experience, i.e. similar gender and such, to really assist in that mentoring relationship. So let's click through here and look at the mentor's role. The mentor's role is really to teach, guide, and help shape the professional growth of the mentee. And these are some responsibilities, and this is taken from Harvard, the link's there for you, but shared information or shares information. So the mentor's responsibility is kind of tell a little bit about themselves. So where are they from? What are they interested? What are their skills? Tell the mentee how they can help, what they can do for the mentee, how can they support the mentee, what are those things that they can do for them. The mentor's responsibility is also to listen actively and to serve as a positive role model. They are there to help the mentee set up educational goals, career goals, whatever that mentor-mentee relationship is for. And then they provide encouragement for building self-confidence and self-esteem. They offer the mentee constructive and meaningful advice and looking at how he can build on that advice, and then celebrate milestones, achievements with the mentee, and then acts as a resource for information and educates the mentee about workplace expectations. One of the things that's really important to note is that when you're asking someone to be a mentor, you want to be sure you're aware of what the commitment looks like and what you're asking that person to engage with, because there are a lot of different levels of mentorship, and you want to be sure your expectations are very clear for the mentor who's accepting that role. In addition to that, you want to not be in a position where you expect the yes. So just because you're asking doesn't mean that they have time. Maybe they're busy at this time. Maybe they can have someone else. Maybe they can refer you to someone else who would be a mentor and have more time for your students. And don't be in a position where you're expecting the yes. And most importantly, don't have your feelings hurt if they say no, because again, you are asking for a commitment of their time. And really in that mentor-mentor relationship, you're asking for the mentor to take a moment from focusing on their goals or possibly their family or something of that nature, and redirect and focus on the student who you want mentored. And so be sure that you're clear in defining the commitment, but also be sure that you're okay with, it's a commitment, and that it's okay to say no. Some of the work we want to do with the mentees is we want to be sure that they're clear on their role as well. And their role is to seek guidance and constructive feedback. Be sure our mentees are welcoming of constructive feedback. They might not be put in a position or in a relationship where the mentor is like, you know what, you're awesome every day. I've had some phenomenal mentors in my life, and no, not all of them told me I was awesome every single day. They told me, hey, you need to work on this, or possibly have you considered looking at this as an area of improvement, and things of that nature. So we want our mentees to have the mindset that they are willing to accept constructive feedback. We want the mentees to take responsibility for keeping in regular contact with the mentor. And this might seem a little different than some of the other things that you might have heard, but this is one that came overwhelmingly out of the information that I was looking at, is that successful programs has the mentee as the person who is responsible for setting up the meeting. So kind of a reverse role of that big brother, big sister that we see in our communities, but really having the job mentee really seeking that. And then access academic and professional strengths, learning to develop developmental needs, values, and short-term and long-term career goals. So really looking at how they can use that mentor as an asset to where they want to go. Develop a plan with the mentor in achieving these goals. Where do you want to be? and be realistic about those goals. Those are things that many of you probably are doing with your students already. And are you actually kind of seen as their mentors? Because if you think about your own personal experience, there's a good chance that some of your wonderful mentors were either your supervisors or your teachers or your educators as you've moved through your career. You want to respect the mentor's time and talk to the mentees about that. Talk to the mentees about always maintaining confidentiality and openly share success and failures. The confidentiality really comes to if they're sharing anything about business or internal things around business that they wouldn't want their competitors to see. That's really where that is coming at. And then is receptive to feedback and coaching and takes advantage of opportunities presented by the mentor. So if you have a relationship where the mentor is saying, hey, I have this great internship for you and it's going to be 3 days a week, and the mentee says, yeah, I'd rather, I have other commitments or there's something else I'd rather be doing. We want to make sure that that relationship is reciprocal, but also that they're taking advantage of the opportunities that the mentor is providing. So with that really quickly, Sarah, is there anything you want to add to the mentor-mentee relationship?
No, I think you've done a good job of covering it. Plus, we've got 3 experts here. And so
I was going to say, I try to cover that one fast because there's a lot of great examples that are going to come from your locals. I will wrap up this next one in our top 10. So top 10 things for office hours. Just this is more advice towards those people who are holding office hours. Put your office hours, date, time, and location in your email signature when you are communicating with your students. So there's no question as to when your office hours are. Put your office hours on a reminder slide at the start and end of class. That can be if you're in person or online, but let them know, let your students know when your office hours are. Describe what office hours are and what they are not in class and on your syllabus, and then give examples of things you like to talk about. You could rename them student hours or connection hours. And again, we're looking at those being held both online and in person. So use Zoom, Google Docs, Twitter, any of those things. Number 4, ask questions, but then be ready to listen. If you're not sure what to ask not just what they're majoring in and why, but ask if they've done anything fun last week. And really, this is an opportunity for you to make connections with your students. This is also a time for them to ask questions. Create teaser topics. Something comes up in class and you would think it would be fun to discuss, but you don't have time to dedicate to it in class. Give students a teaser and tell them that you'll come back. If you come to office hours, we'll discuss that then. Maybe it's the World Series, maybe it's the election, maybe it is something else that's exciting going on in the world. But teaser topics would be something fun for your office hours. My go-to is that I share pictures of my dog, but only during office hours. So something like that you can think about. Number 6, schedule office hours in a block, 2 hours straight. Rather than having office hours here and there for just an hour, you want to be sure your students are able to hang out, and office hours can either be by appointment where they're scheduled to come for a certain amount of 15-minute questions, or a lot of the research says that it's better just to say, these are my office hours from 2 to 4 every Tuesday and Thursday. I'm going to have this Zoom meeting open, and if you show up, you show up. There's a lot of colleges that are doing this as their team. So I've seen vice presidents do this with all of their subordinates saying, hey, if you report to me and you have questions, this is when I'm available to answer questions. And then aim to schedule office hours after class when students typically have follow-up questions rather than before class. The old adage, I believe it was James M. Lang made the comment about, the early bird gets the worm, and he found that the best way to ensure that no one attended office hours was to put them first thing in the morning. 8 a.m. office hours are not going to be well attended, but if you put them either right after class or in a time that is good for everybody, that's when you're going to have people show up. In addition, ask your students. Maybe don't define your office hours at the start of the semester. Maybe you work with your students just like with your learning communities and define that time and pick that time that you will have office hours, and you will have that time to engage with your students. Number 7, make office hours no stakes. Now this is kind of, I've seen research on both sides, but I'm going to tell you that more people are leaning towards the idea of they are optional, but they are an option, and it's an opportunity for students to participate outside of class and really engage. Reinforce the benefits of office hours in class. Explain why they're important and what they can help the student with. Asking that question, having that one-on-one time, seeking clarification. Those are all things that we want to use our office hours for. And then a fun one there, play music. It sets the tone. Again, back to the idea of when you're talking about engagement, you set the tone. What's most important and is number 10 here. Follow up with your students. If any issue is raised during office hours, send them an email with additional resources they might be interested in. And this is really where you can start that mentor-mentee, pseudo-mentor-mentee relationship. Nice little cartoon there. He posted his office hours in unexpected places, and you see the gentleman just really shooting those out the window, pretty much. So to wrap up, follow up with your students, engage with your students through email, calls, text, and then follow up on social media. That's a great way to follow up. So with that, I'm slightly over time, so I'm going to hand it over to Sarah. And Sarah, I will let you get into the hear from your peers.
Thank you, Amy. So while I'm talking for a minute, Ginger, if you want to go ahead and bring your slides up, that would be marvelous. And if for those of you who attended the first 3 webinars on recruitment, if you're saying, hey, there's some of the same information here, yes, there is. Because as Amy said, in order to retain, we have to engage, and in order to engage, we have to retain. So I will tell you that these 3 presenters today are fabulous. If you don't know them, you will agree with me in about 40 minutes. I've known all of them for a period of time. I have had the pleasure of having all of them in extended trainings before, so I know that they are not only exceptional educators, they are exceptional learners. And I think there's a strong correlation between the 2 there. So first we're going to start with Ginger Harner, and Ginger is from Shawnee Community College, way down south in true Southern Illinois. And so Ginger, why don't you take it away?
Hi, thank you, Sarah. I appreciate your faith in us. Let's hope it's warranted. I think the key is we all think that we're doing what everybody does. And I think that's true, because I know that as educators, we understand the commitment that it takes. But we've seen some really good success this year. So I just want to share a few of the things that our program are doing to help make some real connections with our students. So the first tip I have is to make the first conversation count. This for us in this environment isn't necessarily the first contact. So we have students who come to us via email or a phone call or maybe a secondhand conversation, but we found that it's really important to take good time during the first conversation. I'm glad Sarah brought up the 10-minute interview, because it is such a wonderful guide for getting to know students in a meaningful way. The key is that our impressions as people are made during this first conversation. And so if you can make someone feel comfortable right out of the gate, then they're going to have the feeling of trust with you before classes even begin. So we take a lot of time with students during the first conversation. I try to meet with every student that I possibly can. I try to meet with every single student we put into the program, but I've learned that sometimes that gets tricky as a director, because you don't always have time to meet every student, but we really do our best to try and do that. I even ask questions like, if you could learn about anything, what would it be? Because for example, I had a student in an alternative high school class, and she needed some schedule flexibility. So we did an independent study English. Well, I know that she loves, she wants to be a mortician, and she loves things that are dark and different. So I created an English class for her based on the readings of Edgar Allan Poe, and she loved it. She felt engaged and interested, and sometimes she feels a little different than others. So just knowing that about her enabled me to find some things that she might like to read. We also know that students are more apt to enjoy what they're doing in reading and learning if it's something they're interested in. So if you can get that information, try to do that. I ask every student that I meet with, what brings you to me? Because I know they all want to get a GED, but really not why they're here today. Today, something compelled them to be in our classroom. And that's the thing we can't let them forget as we move into classes. So having that moment with students to have a real conversation lays the foundation of your relationship with them. I have found students who've maybe disengaged might call me back on my cell phone 3 years later when they're more mature and have decided they really want to finish school. and they still have my number in their phone. And these are students who change phones all the time. So it tells me that they know at some point when they're ready, they can call me, and they know they can do that. And we've really found that just having someone know they can get with you via an email or a phone call really helps keep them engaged. And when I say to find the right fit, I know that when we assess a student, it's important that we're instructing them on their level. But by finding the right fit, I mean, so for example, I had a classroom once of 17-year-olds primarily, and I had a 40-something-year-old student who was going to enter. The closest class for him was that class, but I knew that he might not enjoy being in a room full of 17-year-olds. So I arranged for him to attend another class. We made it convenient for him, but that way he could be with others who had some life experience, who had different goals, who had different challenges. And that was a really good fit for him to be able to explore his classes in a group that he felt a lot like the other students, aside from their level. Understanding their motivation is so key, and it really does go beyond the credential they're seeking. So I don't know if many of you might remember Pete, who was our student of the year at IASA last year. So Pete's motivation has always been to help people the way he's been helped. So when he attended rehab and those people were able to help him, his goal is to now be one of those counselors. And so every time he has a challenging day, we just say, hey, you know what? That's okay, because you're still going to get there. And it's going to be even more important because you're going to have all of this background knowledge to share with your clients. So they're going to understand that it doesn't always come easy, but that it does happen. So understanding what it means to students is just a really important beginning for that relationship. And it is something we remind our students of regularly. So remember that you wanted to have this done before the baby comes, or before spring semester so you can get into classes, whatever it might be. We use that to communicate urgency to students. I remember a couple of years ago, we were shared some information from the state that said, on average, we get 30 days with a student. And that really struck me, because we don't always communicate urgency to our students. But if we know in the back of our heads, our time with them is going to be limited, then we have to really get communicated all of the things that need to happen in order so that they can reach their goals in a timely manner. If you think it's going to take 3 years, they may not be willing to give 3 years. But if you say, I know you can do this in 3 months, if you do these things, if you follow these steps. And we've had a lot of success with students understanding that we're pushing them because we know life gets in the way and that things get in the way. So too many times eventually is later or never. So we always want to communicate that kind of urgency to our students. It's really important that you understand their barriers and you pre-plan those solutions. We know technology is always going to be a barrier in our district. So even when we do staff meetings, someone's internet is not working, or we can't hear because of the connection. So provide students with consumables that they can have home with them when technology does, and it inevitably will fail us. Provide them options for progress if they have to opt out. So say, okay, well, if this thing is coming up for you, then let's plan for how you can continue while you can't physically attend or even virtually attend class. So be really good about providing technical support ahead of time. So these are the things that we see that students have difficulty with. Let's show you how to fix those things right now. We love to use Learning Upgrade, but Learning Upgrade uses Flash Player, and everybody's browser has an issue with Flash Player. So we right out of the gate say, you're going to see this come up. You're going to have to allow the access so that they expect it. Our program has made cheat sheets with platforms and logins and contact information. And those are ways that students can hold on to all of that. They change email regularly, they change phone numbers regularly. So we say when we begin, you have to keep the same email until you finish your GED. You have to keep the same contact information as best you can. An email address they can always keep as long as they keep their login information there. We start that training and technical support with our staff. So if you're teaching for us, whether you're using Learning Upgrade or not, you need to learn how to use Learning Upgrade so that if you encounter a student who's not your student, but still needs the support, you could still provide it for them, because we're all out in a very large geographic area and we may have more contact with students even outside of our own class. Provide options so that they can continually be moving forward, and then plan what we like to call gold star moments. I had a class a few years back and I said, what can I do to kind of motivate you guys? And they're like, can we have like a board with gold stars? And I did not expect that response because they were adults and I never would have imagined, but they wanted to do that. So we made a little board of achievements and we put gold stars on it. But those kinds of things are quick achievable goals. So Constitution is one that we know students can do in the short term. Learning the scientific method, that's one that is really important in the beginning of instruction, because then they have the basis for understanding everything about experimentation and hypotheses and theories, but all the students struggle with it. So we try to make that one of those achievable moments early on in instruction and celebrate it with our students as they gain success. And then earning trust. I mean, the truth is, if a student knows you're going to be there for them, then they trust you, they feel that support, they understand. You know, I tell students all the time, I know you're going to want to work at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I know I'm not going to be there at 2 o'clock in the morning for your questions. So learn to write your questions down and plan that. You can send it to me via email, knowing that I can get back to you in the morning if it's 2 o'clock in the morning. But know that if you give them lots of ways to do that, then they're going to use one. So our administrative assistant has wonderfully reached those students with that QR code. When students are able to scan that and get right to her, it's just quick and easy. And so they know they can just scan in her QR code and they can have a chat with Christina anywhere they are, anytime. And that was either a free program or very, very inexpensive. And it's been very effective because they can literally just click the picture and go to Christina. And lastly, leave them that continued support network so that they know as they're moving along, you're going to be checking up on them outside of class. So we use a lot of class time in the beginning of semesters to make sure folks are motivated and making progress. And if that means they can do some of their studying outside of class, so be it, because that support network is really important. That cohort feeling has really kept students engaged. So let's keep doing the things that we know keep students engaged and let them know that they can still contact us outside of class for additional support. We put all of our money into making sure we had outreach hours. So we wanted people to know that we were there. A lot of our partners and other agencies have lost contact with a lot of their folks because they don't realize that they can have continued support. And so we've really worked hard to do that. And then lastly, just be a partner in their progress. Let them understand that what we're teaching them now is going to be helpful later, not just in class, not just in school, not just in college, but in the workplace, finding information, all the things that are tested on in high school equivalency class or in a bridge class or an ICAPS class have to do with how to use information and how to understand information. So just let them know that the things that we're teaching them now, we can help with later. So if they need to come back and say, hey, I want to touch base about using a certain program that I've never used before. So we can say, okay, well, remember, you can look at a tutorial for that if I'm not with you, or you can check out that website. You know, a lot of them don't realize that there are tutorials for almost everything they use, and they've never thought of using a tutorial. And so we've created a lot of those. But again, we're not doing anything any differently. We're just trying to keep students engaged. So if there's anything that our team can do for your team, just feel free to contact us.
Thank you, Ginger. We really appreciate that. And as Ginger said, she's willing to answer questions, as any of our panelists today are. So if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I will say that Kang Hee seems to have disappeared. So I'm not sure if that wind that's out there has taken her internet, but no worries. We're going to go to Pam. So Pam, if you want to go ahead and bring your screen up, and then we'll have Kang-hee bring us home. Hopefully she'll be back. So let me introduce Pam as she's bringing up her screen. Pam Williams teaches at Lewis and Clark, and we really appreciate her being willing to share today. And Kang-hee, I see you're back. I'm so glad that you were able to get back in. So we are going ahead and Pam, are you able to share your screen?
It's telling me that that Ginger needs to stop sharing for me to be able to share. Next.
Okay. Yes, so Kang-hee has said that the wind got her internet at home. Okay, here we go. Looks like we're making the transition.
Been there.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Sarah, for that introduction. My name is Pamela Williams, and I'm going to be talking about taking time to care. So just a little quick description. I am currently, actually today's my last day, but I am an instructor in the Lewis and Clark Community College Adult Education Program. I also teach just outside of St. Louis at the Rittner Adult Learning Center in St. John. I am currently working on my doctorate in education, and as luck would have it, my cohort focuses on adult education, workforce development, and distance learning technology. So this has been, while we've gone through the pivot to online, it's been very, very applicable to what I'm looking at and studying. I also like to give my ed cred, so my credibility. I have experience with being an online student and also a face-to-face student and teaching, and also teaching, pardon me, in the face-to-face classroom and also online. So I have some experience. So I wanted to start off my remarks by sharing something that I know all of you know, that even before COVID, we had to really consider the backgrounds of our students. Many of our students, many of our staff members are trauma informed. So I have this quote from Perry, and the major challenge to the educator working with highly stressed or traumatized adults is to furnish the structure, predictability, and sense of safety that can help them begin to feel safe enough to learn. And with that in mind, I wanted to share some statistics that I had found. The CDC is currently doing a study, so it's not complete just yet, but they're calling it the Household Pulse Survey. And so this is their preliminary data, but if we think about what's going on right now, please be gentle with yourself, gentle with your students. Almost 41% of the adults in this study said that they are reporting at least one mental health condition. Specifically, they talk a lot about anxiety and depression. Then 13.3% reported starting or increasing their substance use as a form of how to cope with some of the challenges that the pandemic has brought. And then we have almost 11%, again, of these adults, people over 18, who completed this survey, reported seriously considering suicide in the last month. But let's take it up a notch. When you analyze the data for the participants who do not have a high school diploma, we have some pretty significant jumps. 21% reported starting or increasing their substance use as a coping mechanism. And then I was really shocked to see this, 30% reported seriously considering suicide. So we know that there's quite a bit of trauma. We know that, anxiety, depression, is common amongst the, general population. But with this specific study, we have a lot of folks that are hurting. And so just kind of keeping that in mind as yet another reason why we need to take time to care for ourselves and our students. So going off of Dr. Perry's, that quote I gave, I think it's important to start off with safety. That's why when I was making this model with his words in mind, I thought it was important to start off with safety. The other thing I thought was really important is to make sure that you also think of it in terms of your students and your educators. We are all enduring COVID-19. I went back and forth, should I use pre and post COVID, but I felt like enduring was a better fit because we're still in the thick of it and we're enduring it. So starting off with safety, what does that look like at Lewis and Clark? Our leadership has been very, very supportive of those of us who are teaching from home. I know that there's been some flexibility as far as staff members coming in, rotating. They've been very, very sensitive to our concerns and our needs as not only employees, but as parents, spouses, sandwich generation. Some of us have, parents that we're caring for. So establishing that safety, and then predictability, and we'll go into more about what this looks like. And then finally, structure. So we'll start talking about safety. So I want to say that I took this from Mental Health America, I think is the name of the org. But thinking about safety, that can mean health issues. It could mean financial issues for ourselves and our students. Some of our students, especially the ones that have positions or have had positions that are face-to-face, a lot of them have had their hours cut back. Or due to drive-through only being open, or limited, even people being able to come into a store or business, they've cut back on staff. So, having that in mind, again, for your students and your staff helps because we all have various concerns. All right, so something that I know my colleagues and I have done both at Lewis and Clark and in the St. Louis region is frequently sending out, if we hear about a food bank, baby supplies, household products, what's going on in the community that can help lighten that economic load. Also, something that's been really great is the check-ins with our director and our dean checking in with us with how we're handling all the changes, how our students are handling it, and also letting us know about those professional development opportunities that help give us exposure to things we need, just in time. And also have a student support service system, or if you've already got one, make sure that you're using it. One of the things that we do at Lewis and Clark that I think is really, really helpful is that we do a daily class summary. So after each day, I teach with a team. We all send an email to the other instructors. We also have a counselor, and then we have pathway advocates. And so that way, if there's a need, and maybe a student mentions, being behind on a bill, or they're really stressed out about something, we have ways of making sure that our team and those who have the resources and ability to follow up on that are notified in a timely manner. All right, so furnishing predictability. Again, as our first speaker and Sarah had mentioned, taking attendance and expressing how important it is for students to attend is a really great way to to establish predictability, have that plan in place for student outreach, and also be respectful of students' time. So what does that look like? Again, the attendance, but also establish a protocol for absences and support. So I know that our students have, they have pathway advocates. They also have student services coordinators. But if your team isn't that large, you know, still have something in place. One of the things that I know I do for my St. Louis teaching is that I have canned emails. That's what Google used to call them. I think it might have an updated name, but like templates or something, but it used to be canned messages. So I would take time to kind of write personalized messages, but then I would save them, get rid of the name, get rid of the, you know, I'm so sorry that, you know, your daughter's sick, get rid of that line. But that way I had 5 or 6 messages ready to go, and I could put the student's name in, and if there was a specific concern, but have a protocol, whether you text the student, email them, phone calls, and also making sure that you use the method that works best for them. I know I teach primarily younger students, and they don't do voicemail by and large, and they don't tend to listen to, or pardon, they don't tend to take calls from numbers they don't know. So a lot of times I will send a text, wait 5 minutes or so, and then call. And I have a lot more success if they've received that text and know it's me calling. The other thing is starting class on time with regular breaks. One of the things that we do that I think works well is that we begin class approximately 10 minutes after the published start time. It allows us to build community, and it also acts as a buffer for those latecomers. Also, for creating structure, it's important to build rapport with your students and your colleagues. In the mornings, in the afternoons, but we get on a little early so that we can touch base with each other. Maybe someone needs to go, depending on how we have split up the day, but maybe someone has a special activity they would like to do. Share your instructional resources with your colleagues and staff. Also have some fun. And I'll show you this a little bit. I think it's one more slide, go back. But recognize opportunities to be more inclusive with your learning environment. If you haven't spent some time looking at the Universal Design for Learning best practices, I really suggest that you do. You may look at the list and go, oh my goodness, there's so many strategies. I can't do it all. That's okay. The point is to incorporate them. Pick some ones that are you know, easier for you to implement, do those, and then come back for more. And then I also encourage you to think outside the kitchen. That we're going to get to that in I think 2 more slides. So again, at Lewis and Clark, I have a colleague, William, who starts out each morning saying, "Happy National, today it's Vanilla Cupcake Day." Who knew? So he would say, "Hey, welcome to class, glad you're here. Happy National Vanilla Cupcake Day. How do you like your cupcakes?" So something fun, you know, unexpected, and just that we can get people talking. Sometimes we will use like a whiteboard and put a question, or have the students, you know, write their favorite ice cream flavor. As far as implementing Universal Design for Learning principles, something else you can do is allow your students to participate in multiple formats. The other thing is giving students additional wait time before scaffolding. That's one thing I learned, to give my normal wait time and then wait some more, especially in the online environment. Sometimes there are delays. And then there's something about the wait time. Maybe it's the expression on the face, like you don't get quite that thing that we educators, you know, that thing. You don't quite get that in the online. So make sure that you're giving adequate wait time. So here's an example of my classroom. And this was actually yesterday. I want to point out a couple of things. I had a interactive that I was running on my machine, and I shared it. So what we were looking at is matter. I was taking away energy and adding energy, and asking them questions. So I changed the names, but Karen, who's here, where it says Karen Smith, this student was actually talking to me. Okay, so this Karen was using her mic, and then I always use my mic too, but sometimes I'll go ahead and rephrase the question, or give a little statement, like, in this one, remember, we increased the temperature. And then I also have students that were participating by typing their responses. So that's just an example of that. And then the other thing I wanted to show down here, I want to explain this 25. I want to say there was like 3 or 4 of us on during that, as far as staff goes, but we have been having pretty good attendance. Sometimes it's been as high as like 25. This is inclusive of our instructional team. So yesterday, I would say we probably had about 18, 19 students. And so I think that the engagement, there's something fun to start the day off with. I think, again, when we take time to care and get to know our students, they look forward to it. So final thoughts. I wanted to tell you a little bit about my thinking outside the kitchen. I had a student, and she was attending class by sitting in the kitchen. This is a St. Louis story, but still very applicable. She had severe social anxiety. So she would come in, sign in, and immediately go to the kitchen. We also, she tried to take her writing exam twice and failed, not because she couldn't do the work. It was just too much for her to sit in the open classroom. So we worked together, and it took several months, but we finally got the approval for her to have a separate testing room. Now, the pandemic hits. I start teaching online. Michelle started attending class. She didn't have to use her camera. That's one thing we don't, in both programs, we don't require the camera. If you want to use the camera, occasionally I'll use it for like the board or something. But as far as like a requirement, because we know that some students are a little apprehensive, but all of a sudden you have a student who couldn't be in that physical space, able to participate. She was using text, but still she was interacting with her peers in a way that she couldn't in the kitchen. And then if we think about it, how adult ed might be transformed by the pandemic. So Michelle is down to just one last test. She has math to take, but with the online course delivery, with the online test taking, she doesn't need the separate room because the proctoring requires a kitchen, if you will, a closed off space, so that she's by herself, which is what she needed pre-pandemic. So I just encourage you to think outside of the kitchen. Who are your Michelles? Who are students that, especially with this transition to online, who's sitting in your kitchen or your program's kitchen? What are you doing to meet students' needs, and how might your support of those needs, how has that changed? And then what might be something that you'd want to make permanent?
Pam, I'm very sorry to interrupt, but we need to get to Kang Hee because we have one more speaker. So
Yep.
Thank you very much for, and she's got her information there. So if you want to email Pam, she has a ton of great ideas. Thank you. And your kitchen story is one of my favorite all-time stories.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize how late I've gone.
Well, you know what? I think you just have so much, you're so excited, so much to say. So we appreciate that. And I'm very sorry to interrupt you, but we are going to our final panelist today is Kang Hee Hung. She was persevered and made it back through internet issues. And she is from ROE 33. Yes, be sure and read the chat, Pam, because there's some nice comments being made. But Kang Hee, go ahead.
Yes. So I am in the middle of tornado, so I completely lost all the powers. I'm sitting in dark, so I'm not turning on the camera, just so you know. But I am using the hotspot, so I am on. So yes, I am the director of adult ed at the Regional Office of Education 33.
Kang Hee, can I interrupt you and just ask, do you need to like take cover? Seriously? I mean, is there warnings that we should, are you safe?
Yes, I am safe.
Okay, all right.
And I'll go very quickly. So let me, I was gonna say, I cannot thank PDN enough about all these great webinars. My first screen, my virtual office is actually created after I watched Kathy Kramer's presentation. So thank you. So I am going to talk about how we take care of our students. So let's go to our next slide. So we use Marco Polo, which is the video messaging app. So when we cannot interact face to face in person, this has been really great to just connect with students in a very fun way. In case if you are not familiar with this app, I do have a like 1 minute video. Sarah, if you would like to share the video so people can see what it is. Thank you.
Let me show you how this app works. These tiles are chats with my friends.
It's not
I can easily start talking to anyone, even if they're not online. They'll just give my How's it going? What have you been up to today? And look, she's already watching. She'll reply fast.
Hey Vlada, I just got back from exploring San Francisco. What are you up to?
So nice to see your smiling face, Megan. I'm showing my friends how to use Marco Polo so they can use it to stay in touch with friends and family. So say hi.
Hi friends! You're gonna love Marco Polo, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us at support. Have fun!
So we use Marco Polo app, especially with our
You've changed for good.
with our ESL students. You can group different level of students and use this app to interact, and it's a great tool to get connected, kind of like in person and in a very engaging and fun way. And we also send fun cards, appreciative cards to students that we are very thankful that they are persevering in this COVID and they are going strong with us studying. And we do have office hours and in-person and also Zoom office hours, which students take advantage of. And it's that sit down, take time to listen. That part is very, very important in our program as well. Next slide, please. Tech support. We've dramatically changed this approach of orientation. We used to do all in a group, but now we do one-on-one. And each student, we take about an hour and we make sure that students practice fully, and when they leave the door, they are confident that they can participate on our online class. So And whenever students have trouble, they will call us or message us, and instructors create Loom videos to show students how to troubleshoot on their own, but with the visual and with each step. So if you're not familiar with Loom, you can contact me and I can show you some examples. And actually PDN website has some example videos that I shared, so you can watch it from there as well. Also computer lab, that's when students want to be around teacher when they are attending a webinar. That's another option. Students can make an appointment and be in the classroom with a teacher. Next slide, please. Thank you. Drop off and pickups are, it's kind of exciting for our students too. So we do rewards as drop off. So students receive prizes for leveling up, point gain, and be good attendees. So personalized journals are the most popular ones. So their names and whatever they're interested, they get those writings with the year. And we do unique masks. Some of our instructors actually make masks and drop it off for our students. That's really meaningful and wonderful connection there too. When student needs to talk to the instructors, and sometimes we do visit as well, just porch conversation. It depends on how students are struggling. Another thing especially for family literacy students, the activity kit drop off is a huge success. So we find something that is very engaging and fun for families. We'll drop it off and then students will do it and take pictures and post it on our adult ed Facebook and their class Facebook page. So it's been very fun. Next slide, please. We use our Fridays, which we do not have Zoom class for students, but we offer a variety of webinars with speakers from community partners. So this is another enrichment piece that is connected to our transition service. So these are the people who we've arranged to talk to our students, and regularly we are continuing to schedule each Friday. And it's really fun to ask students who they would like to hear from next, because maybe they would like different informations. One of what we just had this Friday was budgeting. So it was fun and something that students can take away aside from their regularly scheduled classes. Next slide, please. Social media. I think this was talked about a lot of time, visualizing the expectations so students feel safe. If they ask any questions, what does this look like? We'll just take a picture and send it to the students so they are at ease in coming in and think about registering for the next quarter, and things like that. Next slide, please. This is the last slide. I think the most important thing is taking good care of our instructors. As an administrator, I pay really good focus attention to taking care of our instructors. So we have full understanding of each other taking care of one another so that they can go out and take care of their students. So the first thing is just acknowledging that this is a hard time, stressful time, but we can take time, take breather, and also encourage each other what can help each other. So what we do, which is very positive, is once a week we have a all staff meeting, and for maybe 10 or 15 minutes, each staff present what they want to share with the rest of the staff that is positive and fun. So it could be any type of information that is for social, emotional needs. So that's something that I think as a team, adult ed team, uh, very important to just keep in mind, have that mindfulness of that whenever we engage each other, we are uplifting and be nutritious to one another so that we can go back to our students in a healthy way. Well, that's it for me.
Thank you, Kang-hee, and thank you to all of the presenters today. We really appreciate you taking the time to share. One of the points that seems to be driven home by all three of you is taking care of ourselves, taking care of our teachers so they can take care of our students. So, you know, taking that time. Kang-hee, that we did have somebody that asked how you, and I'm going to go back since I've got your slides here, how you created this. So if you have any other questions, please put those in the chat. I know we're a couple minutes over, but if you want to hang on, can you give some information, Kang-hee, or do you want to give?
Yes. If
Okay.
you actually, I will, Sarah, I will send you the link where I got the tutorial how to make this so you can share with everybody else.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sarah, you're
Sarah,
muted.
you muted.
Oh my goodness. Thank you. So Amy, do you have anything else in the chat or anything else you want to share before we wrap up today?
I don't see anything else in the chat. I want to thank you all for taking the time out of your day to present for us. You are doing some incredible work, and the success of the programs is really due to your dedication and passion for adult education. So thank you for sharing your expertise with the system. With that, I just want to let you all know that we will have 2 more webinars on this. We meet next Tuesday, same time, 2 to 3 o'clock, and we're going to talk about connecting and the ways in which we connect. And we will have SIPDC talk about that practice of the 10-minute interview. I've used that with my students several times, and it really is a great way to connect with students and learn about students and not take a whole lot of time. And then on Thursday, we're going to get together and we're going to talk about harnessing, not just engaging with, but harnessing technology for engagement and what that looks like. So I hope you're able to join us next week. Both of those webinars are from 2 to 3 on the 17th and 19th. And with that, thank you all so very much for your time. And sorry we ran over, and look forward to seeing you next week.
Be safe, everybody.
Yes, this weather looks a little crazy, so everyone please be safe.